Hello, everyone. My name is Dunya, and you're watching a fifth episode of Green New Perspectives Launchpad, a webcast series dedicated to sustainability. In the previous four episodes, we talked about wind power, solar power, sustainable fashion, and environmental communications. So, if you haven't watched those episodes, please do check them out on our channel. And today we're going to talk about biophilic design and going to give you the answer to the question, is it good for our health, and how to use this kind of design at home or at our workplaces. So in short, biophilic design is a human-centric approach to interior and building design that focuses on the human connections to the natural world. So we're going to try to learn more about this movement and, like I said, how to incorporate biophilic design principles into our own homes or our workplaces, and maybe both, since a lot of us are working from home at the moment. My guest is Dr. Jelena Brajkovic, who is an expert on this field. She's a research associate at Faculty of Architecture, University of Belgrade. So stay with us and hear what this awesome lady has to say. Okay, hello, Jelena. Welcome to Green New Perspective Launchpad webcast. So can you tell me, how did you get into this field of biophilia? How did you start? Because I mean, it's a, let's say, it's not a new, it's a not a new subject, but only recently it became popular, since sustainability is more and more popular by the year. So biophilia is kind of connected with that, with sustainability. So I guess that's why we talk about it more in architecture or in everyday life. So what is biophilia and how did you get into that?
Thank you, Dunya, for inviting me for this podcast. I will be very glad to share some of, I think, interesting insights on biophilia, as it is really also a new trend, which also is becoming more and more popular each year. Anyway, I am a research associate at the Faculty of Architecture, University of Belgrade. I have PhD in new media in architecture, and part of it was actually, let's say, dealt with these boundaries between artificial and natural, and how do we actually connect to natural world, how do we treat nature, and what are actually the opportunities of technologies and media to actually reconnect us with nature or similar. I know it sounds like maybe a little bit like it's the opposite, like artificial and natural. It's technologies are always considered unnatural and artificial, but and yes, they in a way are. But again, when we look at some studies, they can be understood as part of nature, like maybe artificial intelligence is our ancestor in future. Maybe it will all collide actually into something which we can call, and which Roy Ascott called neo-nature, or the nature the second, or nature after the rise of new media. But anyway, it's just a brief introduction. I think also it's an interesting topic, but it is topic for itself, not for now. Anyway, these boundaries between artificial and natural, how also this, with this overall connectedness, let's say, we again can maybe be more in a way part of nature and enjoy nature as we have these opportunities of remote working and similar. So there are many trends in different, I would say, European projects, and also above Europe, I mean, more wider than Europe, but I have been involved in some of different projects, and they're all dealing with different maybe aspects of sustainability. So, for example, one is treating this, let's say, future of work, and how actually, what is the geography of new working spaces. So it's also a topic.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because we work from home, and so we work from everywhere.
Yes. It's really interesting, really nice project. Of course, people can search for it if they are interested. Literally, just type in geography of new workspaces. and workplaces. But to come back to sustainability, through my let's say research, of course, I encountered other people that were dealing with sustainability in let's say even more not sustainability on also it's let's say a very wide concept. Biophilia goes, I would say, even beyond, as it also focuses on how we perceive and what do we need from the built environment. So it focuses on people as well as nature, respecting both sides. And sometimes some spaces can be biophilic without actually involving literal nature. But let's first explain, of course, what biophilia is. So there are definitely co-benefits of using biophilic design, both for people and for the environment. So I think this is a very interesting topic, I would say, for wider audience, as I'm sure everybody can relate to this topic. Anyway, before explaining what is biophilia, I would really like to remind us all what is actually health, because biophilia and biophilic design has the aim of supporting health and well-being, and it's in a way salutogenic approach, which means we want to nurture our well-being before we actually lose some of our, let's say, stronger points in health and similar. So how can we actually support ourselves through design of the built environment? This is what biophilia and biophilic design is about. But first, just to remind everybody that health is actually, and I'm using the WHO's definition, is not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Is it actually a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being? So physical, mental, and social well-being. And what is well-being at all, and wellness? We all know that we have this wellness and spas everywhere and similar, but what actually wellness is? Well, it is actually practicing healthy habits on a daily basis that help us not to only survive, but to thrive. So if we thrive on a daily basis, then we are definitely good. We are definitely, let's say, in the state of well-being. So how do we thrive? What are these main dimensions of our everyday life that are very important, that are, let's say, key dimensions? So it's social connectedness, exercise, nutrition, sleep, and mindfulness. So do you have any?
I just wanted to ask, like, what about the biophilic design and how it taps into a connection to nature, not just our health? I mean, it's interesting. I don't think that people are actually thinking that much about the connection between, let's say, design and architecture and our health, like you said. But I would like to know also about our connection to nature. I guess biophilia connects all those dots.
Yes, of course. So as I said, all these dimensions of health and mental well-being, we need to support it through the design of the built environment. So when we talk about the built environment, we definitely need this connection with nature in many levels. So Erich Fromm was actually the first one who coined the term of biophilia, and he was a psychologist, of course, and he defined it as ecological orientation of being attracted to all that is alive and vital. Later, Edward Osborne Wilson, 1984 was it, coined biophilia hypothesis, which says that we have this innate affiliation to other living organisms and nature. That means that we need to connect to nature and natural processes on a daily basis. And later then, Stephen R. Kellert, together with Wilson, actually operationalized this concept of biophilia into biophilic design. Okay, so I would say that part of our mental health, part of our well-being is to be connected to nature. So we definitely have this this need of being connected to nature on a daily basis. And how can we do it? How can we, of course, also need a built environment. So how can we design this built environment in a meaningful way? So biophilic design goes, let's say, beyond sustainable or green. It respects nature, nurture human also beneficial connections with it. So if you ask if anybody is interested in how to practice and how to use biophilic design, there are, of course, elements and attributes of biophilic design. And I would just point out a few of them. So one of them is environmental features. So we need both in indoor or outdoor design, urban design or interior design, we need definitely, let's say, presence of some environmental feature. This is, of course, dealing with color, with air, with water, with greenery. This is something very down to earth that anybody can understand, of course. Natural materials, of course, colors, views and vistas. Everybody likes to have nice view, right? But also we can, let's say, design this view, its depth, it's, let's say, colors. So when we deal with the location, this is something really, really important. Then we have natural shape and forms. So this can be also analogs. We can also simulate nature. So for example, and also there is a bit biomimicry. So for example, even in, let's imagine interior space, a conference room, maybe we don't have enough natural light, but maybe we can do a ceiling that imitates some, let's say, natural motifs, and it's already, it already feels better. So some space doesn't really have to be, let's say, in touch even with real nature. It has to mimic it at least, so that we can achieve something which is beneficial for human perception of space. Then we have natural patterns and processes. This is, of course, something that changes in time. That's why it is process, not a form or a material. So, for example, information richness. For example, if we talk about landscapes, we don't want flat, right, too monotonous landscapes. We need a focal point. We need some kind of, let's say, change in a landscape, for example, or sensory variability. I am sure you will show pictures to the audience what sensory variability is and why do we enjoy it. Then we have, of course, light and space. Light is, of course, very important in so many ways. It can shape our perception of space very, very heavily. So this is something that always has to be done carefully. So is it the color of light, you know, many different parameters. Then we have two very interesting dimensions, place-based relationships and evolved human nature relationships. I hope this is not too abstract for the general audience, and I think it isn't. So place-based relationships, we have this, let's say, when we design something, we need to, let's say, connect to the place historically or geographically. We need to have this cultural connection to place. We should, let's say, definitely achieve a spirit of place and avoid placelessness. So this is very abstract.
Yeah, but what do you think? Is that actually happening? Because the world is getting more and more globalized. So how are we actually tapping into our historic knowledge, our historic places?
Well, I still think it's there. I think that's why people like to travel, because they definitely experience different culture. They meet this sense of place in different locations. I think for sure. Of course, there are some, let's say, generic architectures that can be found in any city. And they actually don't give us much perception. That's why also everybody likes to visit the, let's say, old town in cities that have this kind of let's say, historic districts and similar. So this is something that we should always nurture if we, of course, have it. And this is this place-based, let's say, literacy for designers. For the last one, evolved human nature relationships, this is something that is stepping also a little bit in psychology and mental dimensions of space. where we need to create some kind of, let's say, environment. It can be if we are in a hospital, we want a calm environment. If we are maybe at a public space, we want to arouse this social interaction, and we can do it, of course, through let's say transitional spaces, through spaces that actually change, allow you to be playful and similar. So just to say a few: curiosity and excitement, exploration and discovery. We definitely need discovery in space. Then we have this part that needs information and cognition, but also another part that needs just to feel safe and to feel maybe playful. Depending on how we shape, let's say, the environment, we can actually achieve this.
Okay, can you give us some of the examples of biophilia in architecture that are existing in the world?
Yes, well, there are many different, let's say, many different examples that we can show. It really applies to any scale and any task. I would, for example, point out, if somebody is really interested in this topic, then the one can explore further, of course, on the internet. I would, for example, point out maybe the Terrapin Bright Green. It's a consultancy firm. It's based in New York, for example, and I think they are a good example of, for example, an office which gives a lot of different actually services, of which one is really thorough studies of biophilic design. So inside you can meet architects, environmentalists. It's really different. It's really a little bit different professions, of course. And their main goal is actually to reach this sustainability, different sustainability, let's say, goals. So they're dealing with biodiversity, health and well-being, profitability. Why not? Biophilic design is known for economic benefits also, as well as let's say human benefits of users of these spaces. Then system integration, of course, climate resiliency, energy utilization, water management. Of course, it's all, let's say, interconnected. And they did something which is called also 14 patterns of biophilic design. I'm not going to talk much about them. I already mentioned some of the parameters, but let's say three main division, let's say, inside of these patterns is nature in the space, nature of the space. So nature in the space is literally natural analogs or natural processes or literal nature in the space. Nature of the space is that what we already mentioned. What is the sense of the place? Do you feel good? Do you feel, again, these other let's say dimensions of space that should speak to us if we created a proper place? And of course there is this natural analogs. Being said that, I would say that they also did a very good recent publication, actually, of different case studies that people, again, can search for in the on the internet. I would just say it applies to different scales. And for example, we can have a pocket, little small urban parks, and not only parks, but also, let's say, urban hacks. In a way, it can be in a yard, it can be even intersection of the streets where you can apply some of the, let's say, biophilic principles. Then you can use it, of course, in commercial offices, as there are many beneficial things that were already measured, I mean, in a scientific way as well. So then we can use it in hospitals, in health institutions, in schools, of course, educational institutions. We can use it, of course, in interior design, living space. So what actually people can expect if they use properly biophilic, let's say, guidelines. Building managers can retain higher rents. Companies should improve productivity. Absenteeism should be really, really reduced, because there is actually frightening numbers that we heard in London in 2019 about burnouts, about people really having to be absent, and we're actually quickly giving let's say resign. So there is actually a lot of resources that employer has to put in to actually put someone new. So
Yeah, so biophilic design is actually good for workplaces, like you said. It's good for
yes.
worker mentality, which is also beneficial for companies, of course.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
It can provide something which is called restorative environments, and restorative environments are those who actually give us good mood endorsement. They let's say lift up a little bit our physical or even social interaction activities, and they induce let's say this feeling of pleasantness and safety. So people are literally willing to come to work. They feel more motivated, they feel productive, they feel respected, and that is really something that I guess all of us need. So what do you think about this? I'm interested to know.
Well, I'm thinking at the moment that I have never worked in that kind of environment, and I would really like to see how it's, how it affects my mind. And I wanted to ask you, do you know about some of those workplaces? Like, have you been in one? Yeah, I haven't read the research about that. I think that I'm going to find it. Maybe I'm going to leave if I found them, or if you send them to me, we can leave the links in the description of the video so the viewers can also read them. But yeah, I wanted to ask, like, what are the advantages are, like, what the research has shown, the percentage of productivity that is increased, maybe, or let's say, like you said in the beginning, like overall well-being of a single person or a team, or everyone who works there.
Yeah, well, I see there are different I must say, for example, I think you will show the pictures also that I will send you. In 2019 we really were at this symposium in London. It was only about wellness and biophilia at workplaces. So we definitely visited offices in London that applied this in a different way. Some of them actually dealt with more with lightning issues. Some of them brought literally nature into the offices. We also discussed views and vistas. And for, I would say, in different regions of the world, there were people from everywhere around the world. The workforce is facing different challenges. So somewhere it's literally about the quality of air, but somewhere it's about this motivation, because it's really, I think the new generations also are more and more demanding, considering the, let's say, the work conditions, and this is actually good. But besides the design of workplace, of course, I mean, if you work for 12 hours a day or 10 hours a day, never mind, the restorative environment, of course, is too much. So it's not to go back to health and healthy habits and wellness and well-being. I think each of us should definitely think about the time we are able to dedicate to work, to personal life, to the social connectedness that we need. So definitely everything has to be in balance. But
yeah, it kind of makes sense. Like biophilic design goes hand in hand with ethical practices, ethical working practices. That's kind of
exactly.
Well, yeah, we're talking about sustainability, so
exactly. But maybe also, I think it would be interesting to mention, first thing, people, what was interesting and I was surprised, people actually don't, some surveys show that people actually are not that crazy about open spaces, because then they feel...
I'm one of them as well.
Really? Why? Explain us why.
Oh, because I worked at an open space at a multinational company, and like, you don't have any privacy, so everyone is staying quiet during the day. And for me, it was super boring, because I didn't get the sense of productivity. I didn't get the sense of teamwork. And I think that teams are formed in smaller spaces rather than bigger ones. That's just my impression. I haven't read any research on that. Yeah, but it kind of looks like everyone is holding to themselves, So yeah, I like smaller spaces because I have the feeling that I'm like building stronger connections with my teammates if I work in a smaller space.
Yeah, you see how the space does influence your both productivity and satisfaction. at work. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but if someone wants to work alone, I guess for them maybe that isn't the problem. I'm a person who likes teamwork.
Yeah, sure. Well, recent trends are combining these, let's say, spaces and offices, let's say, of privacy, and open spaces, let's say, co-working spaces. But now these co-working, let's say, spaces, dedicated space, is emulating, let's say, some living people usually like kitchen, joint kitchen, then they network. It's a good thing, of course, but definitely to respect this let's say private momentum. And I think this is now becoming better. At one point, the open spaces were such a hit. I'm not sure this was supported by actually actual needs of the workforce, but it does look better when somebody, of course, comes to your, offices to have this kind of space. It does look like you're not working, but you are. So it should be very careful with it.
Well, you can do that in an open space as well, to be honest. I mean,
yeah.
It's not a matter of productivity. I guess it's a more matter of a personal connection with other people. Because when you're surrounded but by so many others, there's no privacy, there's no, the connection is missing.
It's actually it goes in a reverse way. It actually it should endorse like communication, but actually it goes the other way around. You actually feel more like,
because you're staying silent because you think you're interrupting someone else.
Yes.
So yeah.
I know. And I personally, I know when I find these booths, these like super small booths where like you can have a hall, but it's really claustrophobic, and I'm really not sure it's doing its purpose. But that doesn't matter. It's only one aspect. This, let's say, spatial arrangement and the number of people sharing a same office or a space. Nobody wants to feel like a part of the system in a way that there are just, let's say, long rows of tables and chairs and these cubicons. Of course, it's not supporting health and well-being. Of course. So so this is one thing, spatial arrangements. Then, of course, the lighting can influence severely. The spaces that don't have natural light, it kills you slowly. Then, of course, the materials, the colors, actually everything is important. And also it was interesting, this microclimate, there was discussion, as I think it's always popular when you have people sharing the office, everybody likes different temperatures. So
that was exactly the case. Someone wanted to open the window, someone wanted air condition. So it was like fighting every day.
There were some efforts made. I don't know what actually went with that by the end, to have this local climate at your desk. So actually the desk provides you like extra heating. So if the heating is lower, you can actually create your microclimate at your desk, as desks have a feature, and of course the whole system that supports your actually microclimate, which is again one of the interesting ideas. And you asked me the applications, and this is it. Also, I would say, also for example, I talked about this. That's why I'm pointing out, in any area, also for the hospitals, in any area, we can talk about this. Also for gyms and spas, for example, and wellness centers. This is, I think, more than important, as they are dealing with health again, physical activity and wellness. And here there are different publications that we've done. People are now, let's say, arranging, I think you will show images, arranging their gyms and their spas, again, according to the some guidelines for colors, for scents, for again, the arrangement, the percentage of people in the room, and all things like this. It's very down to earth. Of course, if you're not a designer that is designing a whole, let's say, maybe a whole district or something, you can be very simple, and of course use these natural elements, natural analogs. So even a print.
I wanted to ask you, like, my last question for this conversation would be, like, how can we all, not just designers, but we all as human beings living in spaces, incorporate biophilic design in our everyday lives? Because I'm sure we can. We're just probably not thinking about it. Some of us, not all of us. Like some people are really thinking about it, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Well, of course, biophilic design is a part, of course, of the living, interior design and arranging of your space, living space. So this is something that you can do. You're a designer of your own living space, at least. If you cannot design your workspace, at least living space you can, and your habits. You can have this biophilic, let's say, lifestyle, or let's say, as I said, was talking about biophilic personality. You can maybe also think about this a little bit. It's also definitely habits. You can of course spend some time in nature. I mean, all the normal things, I guess, that are very trendy today. So and talking about biophilic design for interior spaces, don't forget, I think when people also are buying flats or renting, sometimes they forget to pay attention to the views and vistas, or for example, orientation. So you should think, do you want sun in the morning? Do you want sun in the evening? Do you like a sunset? Then you want a west, or you want east orientation, or south, or you're an artist and want this, let's say, solid lighting, then you should head to north. So anyway, of course, using natural materials is always better. Pastel colors or calming, you can also Google about which color actually supports which kind of activity. Don't overdo it with of course, don't overdo it with colors. It's something that would, I guess, architect would always say. So it's really as simple as this, for example, for common people to apply it. So through materials, I guess, through this connection outside inside spaces, the amount of let's say glass views that you have, I mean the windows and similar. So it goes to this, but all together, I would say, again, coming back at the end of this conversation, I would also point out that, but this is more for designers, of course, than for a common audience. But you can also practice it at a daily basis. This salutogenic approach, which means protecting ourselves. We focuses on factors that support health and well-being. Beyond more traditional, let's say, pathogenic focus on risk and problems. So we should definitely live like that we don't get sick. If we get sick by any kind of our activities that we eat, we don't eat well, we overwork maybe, or something like that, then we have to mend everything that we done. I think there is an interesting saying, was it Dalai Lama, I think, that said how it is interesting. First, we sacrifice our health to earn money, to earn a lot of money, and then we lose our health, and then we have to spend this money to restore our health back. So it's really it's really ironic. So I think
so biophilic design is actually about thinking in advance, like thinking about the future in every way. Yes. About our health, about our, let's say, environments, about the way we build our cities, because yes. I'm not sure how biophilic they are today, but maybe that's going to change. I'm hoping that's going to change.
I think it's very diverse. It's very diverse, depending really from a city to a city. New developments tend to lose this, let's say, sense of place. Maybe we need this, let's say, human scale. It's very important. I understand that, of course, demands for a lot of flats, for a lot of people being at the same place, it's always growing, and it's really a challenge, but it's really complex issue. It's I mean, something called holistic approach is very important, but it's very, very hard to intersect all the systems. I mean, maybe you in with urban planning, it's really complex. You do well on one parameter, but you sacrifice another. So it's really, 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 really complex. That's why it's very important that, of course, different experts coming from different areas of expertise join together, and don't forget actually to talk about all the parameters that are important. It's easy just to talk about one, but if it influences another, then again, we didn't do anything. It has to be holistic.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then again, goes well with the sustainability idea that sustainability is about community, is about teamwork, is about working together, and not about the individuals and heroes. So
Exactly.
yeah, so it all makes
Exactly.
sense. Yeah, thank you, Yelena. This was a really awesome conversation. Thank you for giving us your knowledge. To all of you who are watching this podcast, please leave us your feedback. We would really appreciate that. I will ask Yelena some questions. I will let her know about them.
Yes, of
Um,
course.
and tell us if you knew about biophilic design before or you just heard about it, and what do you think about it. So thank you all. Thank you, Yelena, and thank you for watching. See you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Ciao.